Hotline League is brought to you by Omen by HP. All right, we got Izento on the show. How's it going, Izento?
It's going pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Very, very good. Where are you calling from?
Calling from LA.
Hey, Los Angeles, California.
Hey yo.
I live there. What do you want to talk about?
So I wanted to revisit the conversation of coaches getting blamed for draft because, that was a very big topic back in last Worlds, and Parth
Well,
got a
even
lot of
recently with
criticism.
Zix. People wanted Zix fired, and that was people were saying it was because of the draft.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a problem with a lot of coaches kind of displacing blame away from themselves, and players also defending that as well too, and saying that it's not necessarily the coach's fault. Uh, because I think it boils down to more than that, because it's a very nuanced topic, of course, because it has to do with the players champions pool, and what they can do with certain champions, whether they are meta or not. Just for instance, like Huhi's Aurelian Soul, like sure, that's not necessarily a meta champion, but he is good with that champion. But I think it's a coach's responsibility in order to instill this following of the meta, because when you look at the meta and you think of the purpose of what the meta actually is to the professional scene, it's to play at the highest level possible. And the most optimal way to do that is to play towards the meta, because those are the OP champions. And so I think a coach should ultimately be responsible for what is, played within the games.
Okay, so you think that would you say the coach should be 100% responsible for the draft?
No, I'm not saying 100%, because there's also a player's skill curve or ability to retain knowledge, because that varies between different players. Some players, they are good at a specific champion better than other champions. For instance, Phoenix on Azir, he's very good, more than the average LCS player on Azir. So you can say that his skill curve for that champion is higher, and you can assume that uh, goes over on different champions as well too, regardless of if they're meta or not. But I think there still should be a culture instilled within the team to learn meta champions. And if a coach's draft is necessarily ruined because of a player's champion pool, that should also fall upon the coach as well too.
Prolly, how do you
No,
respond to
yeah,
this
I
accusation?
completely agree. I think it's
Well, I feel like I did an interview in the past where you were like, "Hey, listen, I'm not the only person doing the draft here. Like, it's a conversation, and these." That's how you sound, by the way. And like,
thank
there,
you.
other people should be, they're giving me advice on who they want to play too.
Yeah, I think that's more like an insight to how it works, as opposed to, hey, it's not all me, because I would blame myself for every single draft we've done, like good and bad. I would say it's all like, because ultimately it's all the decision or all the information I get from the players, information I get from scrims, and then like how well we perform in these champions, and then it's ultimately like I'm deciding what we're gonna pick. Even to the extent where if a player says like, let me play this champion here, it's so good. It's still ultimately like if I'm sitting there in champ select being like, no, we're not playing it. I don't think the team is gonna be like, no, like don't listen to the coach, pick what you want. It's like, so I think even when I'm like when I hear a player say like, oh, I'm really confident on this champion, let's play it, like it still feels like I should be responsible for allowing that or not allowing that. And it's up to me to kind of judge like, is this right to like let him do this confidence pick over like a safe pick or something. So I'd still like hold myself responsible for that and judge myself, um, as opposed to being like, well, the player wanted to play it, so it's all on him. Um, I
So,
definitely think. Oh,
well, sorry to interrupt, but
no problem.
so then what is your opinion on those coaches or those players that kind of shift the blame away from the coach themselves, because as you're saying, you take responsibility for the actions of your players and whether that they can play these meta picks or everything. But in the past, coaches have said, "Oh, well, it's all about how the team coordinates together and how, you know, the meta picks mesh together, and they can't necessarily play these picks, so you shouldn't necessarily blame the players, and yet you shouldn't necessarily blame the coach as well too." So, you know, which is it? Do you blame the coach or do you blame the players? Like, should the coach necessarily take the whole fall for the team or what?
I guess it's kind of up to what that coach is capable of. Um, the reason why I take responsibility for that kind of stuff is because I know I can show a player how to play a champion correctly if I have to. So if we're not picking a certain champion because like we didn't learn it or something, I'm sure some coaches will say like, "Oh, my player just can't play that champion, so we didn't pick it." I think it's more of like I didn't do a good job of like making him believe this pick can work with him and with his play style, and I didn't like show him the right things, or like I didn't give him the opportunities to play it correctly or learn it correctly, I guess. So if one of my players is not playing a meta champion, I had the ability to fix that, and I just didn't put enough effort into that, or I just wasn't focused on it, or I was just like wrong about how to approach it. So I would take that blame upon myself because I know I'm capable of teaching that player how to play this champion if we really need it. Other coaches, I don't think are that focused on like this is what they want to do. You know, like I mean, I still play the game a whole bunch, so it's a lot easier for me to like get on their level when it comes to learning a champion. But I think other coaches like only use the information from scrims or only from other regions to kind of determine what pick ban's going to be. And I kind of use also like the fact that I still play and I kind of understand how like my players like learning curves will be with certain champions and how they'll fit. So everything that has to do with pick ban, I can always fix it and improve it if like I put that much work into it. So if something goes wrong, I won't always take the blame for it. I think that's just like a comfortable style for coaching. I think if you want to just say like pick ban is like a team thing, I think you just won't be pushing yourself as a coach. So that's like my answer because that's how I want to approach it to get better as a coach. But I think like judging other teams, I wouldn't just blame the coach personally, because I don't know what their role is on the team, like as a coach, what they actually do for pick ban.
Right, and just to play devil's advocate, like Zabutin at the start of the split was very much about like player empowerment in terms of like what they were going to play and stuff like that. He did a couple interviews where he was like, yeah, you know, if a player wants to feel something, I'll pretty much always be like, sure, you know. And I think you kind of saw that one time that felt like Arrow was like, I want to play Draven. And then the like team blinded Caitlyn. He was like, I'm playing Draven. They picked Draven into Caitlyn. He fell down 40 CS. Like, I think if you want to blame the coach for not having a more strict methodology in that system, I think maybe you can levy that criticism, but then you're talking more about the structure that they set up, I guess. So I don't know. I think it depends on which team does what.
Yeah, and that's maybe going towards the Korean mentality, or what I assume is the Korean mentality of that the coach kind of has this full control, and so they're able to dictate exactly what the players play and whether they study meta picks or not. And maybe that's why the Korean meta is usually at the forefront, because they're the ones innovating these picks. They're the ones actually perfecting these picks themselves. But speaking to actually improving a player and improving their meta picks over time, then what do you have to say about Ryu and his previous performance over the past on H2K, because he always had a problem with playing meta picks themselves. So
I'm super sorry to do this to you, but we're 15 minutes over time, so I can't further the conversation. But
my bad.
I really appreciate the conversation just about coaching. I think it was really good. Sorry to cut you off.
You can message me or something, and we'll tweet about it. Or we can get to that.
I'll get to you at LCS. How about that?
That's fair.
Okay, thanks, dude.
All right.
Hey, before we bring on the next caller, Prolly, I just have a quick question to you. How do you feel about, Ryu? Because some people have criticized his champion pool and mostly playing like Talia and Rise. So, like, would you say you deserve any criticism?
Yeah, dude. If my
I brought his
honestly,
intro
dude, if
back
Ryu
since he
can't
just
play
asked
a
the same
certain
question.
champion, dude,
I'm sorry, it was just such a good question.
Yeah.
it is really all my fault. Because like if I can't make, I don't know, look at this fucking OP champion, 100% win rate. If I can't make that champion look juicy for my player, then like my approach is wrong, or maybe I'm just wrong about how the champion should be played relative to my player. Like there's
Sure.
something that I'm not getting at correctly.
Sure, but I have a question. It's like, I don't know if this is the case with Ryu. We don't see him play Azir very much. It feels like his Cassio's fine. He can play some of the standard control mages, but like, do you feel like you deserve the criticism for him not playing Azir, or is it at some point where you're like, I've tried, I have done my best, it has not worked, and these other strategies are more likely to result in a win, so I'm just gonna go with them. But like that first problem of not learning the Azir or something, or whatever champion you might have for more personal experience, like, do you feel like you still deserve the most blame for that, or do you feel like at some point some players do have certain affinities to champions and it's fine to let them be that?
Well, like the way I want to coach, like yeah, I want that blame.
Okay.
Like that should be on me, because yeah, stuff like even the Azir, like I mean he's gotten nerfed again, but I still think he's super playable. So if we're not picking him, it's like I have to have a reason why we're not picking like a strong champion like that. And if I can't like convince Ryu to play it, or like make him like, or help him improve on that, like dude, how can I not make a player better? Like that's my job. So if he can't play this champion, or like the team can't play with this champion, like dude, that should be all on me.
Sasia and
Okay,
Twitch
if he
chat.
misses a skill shot, that's something like I can kind of help with, but it's sometimes that's going to be out of my control. But realistically, like, dude, if he's throwing a skill shot, I could probably help him with that too.
I mean,
Cool.
so when I came with that Ryu question, I didn't mean it to have it sound so harsh, because I believe that Ryu has improved with his champion pool, like specifically Talia. If you guys remember last split or last year on P1, it's fucking awful. Probably one of his worst champions, I would think, with playing with Talia and specifically playing with the team. His ults were just god awful, but now he's looking quite better, on 100 Thieves. So was this kind of a champion that you pinpointed and said you had to work on this? Sorry if I am asking
I think we're gonna have
additional
to move
questions.
No,
Yeah,
Mark. You
What?
wanted to
So-
continue the
You
conversation.
back in here.
I have
I
now
asked
cleared the
one
next
question.
hour of my life so that
Travis, don't put back on.
actually-
You were the one who did the action.
Mark, you can't have it both
Whoa,
ways,
this is-
man.
this is not the
All right,
point.
you want it to go
This is the
long?
opposite
It
of
goes
what I
long.
wanted.
You want it to go short?
You
It
moved
goes
as Ento
short.
and I asked the question, and you brought as. How is that channel?
You're cutting in and out for some reason.
I said, that's weird. I was saying you put him in the channel, not me. This is you wanting it both ways.
Hey, sorry.
No,
So I
Mommy's
do
out of
interviews
your
at the
way.
LCS too, so maybe let's just save that one for Prolly.
Yeah. Yeah, sounds good.
Thanks,
All right,
Lizento.
guys, have a good night.
Thanks, dude.
It feels I don't know how to feel like when I'm asked a question and I'm not allowed to answer it now. I'm like, what do I say now?
Nothing.
We got the last
Because we're
guy. in the
moving
room.
on, probably. All right. This is
Killing me.
not some democracy. Yeah, you can grab the last guy.